What's going on, everyone, and happy Thursday. About 71% of stocks in the S&P 500 finished in the green, and the market had a pretty good day, and Apple, of all stocks, is just ripping to the upside on news of a $110 billion share buyback. And yes, that's billion with a B. $110 billion share buyback is a giant buyback, to say the least. So, of course, we're going to cover this in detail as the stock is rocketing in after hours. We also have some other exciting earnings reports to cover as well from companies like Coinbase, DraftKings, and more. And then there's some pretty interesting news, we'll say, that's kind of brewing behind the scenes in the market right now. Either way, we have 1 day left for the week, so let's make it count and let's end this week on a green note. But Tom, let's jump right into today's episode.
Yeah, the S&P 500 was pretty insane today. The SPY actually ran all the way down to $500, bounced off support around like $499.50/500, which is actually one of the good lower levels of the week already. And we had a really good bounce back up. And in after hours, Apple is pushing the SPY even higher, getting closer to a pretty good trend line lately and good resistance around 507 to 508. So I'm definitely going to be watching those resistances tomorrow, Mike, very closely, because it looks like we're going to see more upside momentum coming in with those big earnings here. Apple's up 2.2% before, well, I should say like 2.2% during the day, and in after hours here ran all the way up to 184. So pretty much like from the closing price to the high here, it's already up like 6%. So for such an influential stock like Apple to be up this much, you know that there's a lot going on. And like Mike said, they're doing a $110 billion share buyback. That is a pretty big deal. To have a share buyback with that type of number is insane. There's so many companies on the market that aren't even worth $110 billion. So it's pretty insane that they're just buying it back like that. But hey, it's good for the stock. You know, a lot of companies do this with their cash to kind of raise the share prices and stuff. It really does help investors, Mike, and it's one of the more bullish things that we've seen. But besides that, the other numbers were pretty good. They beat on EPS. They beat on revenue. The one negative is that iPhone sales did drop by 10%. But other than that, the numbers were pretty good across the board.
Good to see. And Apple's just one of those companies where it's like, whether you're bullish on it or you're bearish on it or you don't care about it, you have to pay attention to it regardless, because it has such a giant influence on the market overall, because it's just one of those big tech stocks that has one of the heaviest weightings in the market. And for a while there, it had the heaviest weighting. So to see it move to the upside like this puts a lot of direct pressure onto the market in a bullish way. And as you said, when you have a buyback this big, it is like a giant gift to investors, because as a stockholder, all you can really ask for is like a giant buyback, and the company, I guess you could say, generating nice returns for their shareholders. And either way, this is great news for anyone who owns Apple today.
It really is, Mike, and whenever I started to look through a little bit more, they even mentioned AI. They're going to have an iPad event coming up, and they're going to be talking about AI a little bit there, too, and they even said that the China sales were doing pretty good here on the iPhones, which Cook said was a pretty big surprise. In the quote here, he said that may come as a surprise to some people. So it's pretty good. Whenever you see Apple doing that in China, that's always a really big number there. But there were a couple other earnings that came out tonight, Mike, that were pretty big. I know Coinbase has been on everybody's radar with the Bitcoin halving and everything. They were actually up 8.9%, but since the market closed, they are falling back off slightly, and it's not looking too good, Mike, but I will say the numbers were okay. The EPS beat, the revenue beat. So at the end of the day, I thought it was looking pretty good for them. But the one big thing is on like the EPS, a big reason why they're actually ahead so much is their gains on their crypto assets. So keep that in mind. Like if Bitcoin falls a little bit, it's not going to look too hot on the next report.
And it would decrease trading activity as well, which isn't what Coinbase wants to see. But either way, this stock has been ripping over the past year, and I'm sure it'll do good over the long term, but we all know how earnings are in the short term. They're like a coin flip. But keep a close eye on this one either way, because it does tend to have some pretty good moves in both directions. And then, Tom, we can't forget about good old DraftKings with their earnings report today. The stock's not looking too bad in after hours.
It's not. It's up a little bit from close. It's up around right now 1.12%. It keeps falling back, but it was up around 5 or 6% up there at the top. But with DraftKings, Mike, we saved the best for last here. You know, it's one of our favorite companies out there, and I would say the report was actually pretty good. So let's dive into some of the numbers with DraftKings. Something that I saw that was really good right off the bat is their CEO said that their performance in the first quarter was outstanding, and they actually raised guidance on their EBITDA quite a bit. So that's awesome to see that they raised that. And something with their EBITDA that I thought was extremely interesting is it doesn't even account for any jurisdictions that might come into play. For example, like if a new state legalizes sports betting or something, like their EBITDA and their outlooks don't even have that in there. So imagine that's going to be a big boost of revenue whenever new states and new jurisdictions do come in. But they beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, Mike, and it's looking pretty good here. Although I will say the stock could be moving a little bit more.
No doubt. So keep a close eye on these three stocks for tomorrow, as we all know how much craziness and volatility earnings does bring into play. And then looking at some of the other earnings for tomorrow, we can see that we do have Hershey's set to report before open, which I thought is worth watching, especially considering the giant crash we're seeing with cocoa prices. So for those of you who don't know about this, basically the price of cocoa was rising quicker than I think literally anything else in the market over this past year. It went up by like 200%, which is an insane move, especially for a commodity. And it's starting to fall out of the sky, you can say. And I know Hershey's really like that, like over the past week. But you know, with earnings, you know, their earnings, it always brings in extra volatility, and you know, it's always a coin flip. But I thought it'd be worth watching heading into tomorrow.
It is kind of like the most interesting one, right? There's not really too much more tomorrow morning besides that. So I think it is going to be a pretty interesting one. And whenever you look at Hershey's chart, they do have a big support down here. I wouldn't be surprised like if the earnings were good, if this started popping up on a bunch of people's radar as it breaks like $200. I could see that being a pretty big number for it tomorrow. And with the economic data, we actually do have something on the radar, Mike. You know, we've taken a little break since Wednesday with Powell today. There wasn't too much, but tomorrow we do have the ISM services PMI, the non-farm payrolls, and the unemployment rate. The non-farm payrolls and unemployment rate are 1 hour before the market opens, and the ISM services PMI is at 10 a.m. a little bit after. But that's pretty much what's on the radar tomorrow, Mike. So not too much, I guess, in the name of earnings, but at least the data here is going to be pretty important.
Sounds great. And then one thing we just have to cover before we move on is we have some new news with the Boeing Mafia. So for those of you who've been following the Boeing situation over the past couple of weeks and months, it's kind of concerning. So a couple of weeks ago, we had one of the Boeing whistleblowers mysteriously die in an apparent suicide, and that was very suspicious to begin with. But we just had news come out today where another whistleblower was mysteriously found dead. And also, this whistleblower was also filing a complaint to the FAA against one of Boeing's divisions, and it's just like a very suspicious situation, to say the least. This most recent whistleblower died of like an infection that started to spread pretty rapidly and unexpectedly, but either way, I figured we'd cover this, you know, especially given how crazy Boeing stock has been and how, I don't know, how suspicious the news is.
I'll tell you what, Mike, I've been pretty negative on Boeing stock on the way down. I don't think I'm going to say one more negative thing about this stock anymore. I'm definitely a little scared now. No, but at the end of the day, this is some pretty insane news, guys. Like, I know that this was actually trending quite a bit today. I'm sure it's going to blow a lot of people's minds, like when they start looking into this a little bit deeper, but I don't know, Mike. I can't believe that there's not any like weird investigation starting to go on with this, because I mean it's a little bit too coincidental in my eyes. I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think, though, guys. Light it up down there, but you know, don't get too crazy.
Yeah, Tom, you better be careful with what you say with Boeing. You might be next on the list, so I don't know. Maybe reconsider your sentiment with the stock. But either way, going into the market tomorrow, SPY has been holding up in a pretty strong way. Tom, if you had to pick like just a couple like key levels to watch for tomorrow, what would they be?
Yeah, so in the short term here, SPY, with the way it moved up today, it's getting close to a major resistance. I'm going to draw some arrows here on the chart to some of the hits off of this level over the past few days. It's very close to like the 507 to 508 level. I think there's like a 1 point range right there, you could say, where there's been so many hits over the past couple weeks. So I'm definitely going to watch that as major resistance. If the SPY can start to break above 508, I would look for a push closer to like 510 to 511. If we start to break that, we're going to be at levels we haven't been at in quite a few weeks. Now I'll be watching 512 after there, but I think that really that main resistance around like 508 and 510 are going to be the main ones in play tomorrow. If we do end up rejecting back down, there's pretty big supports down around 503.50, 502, and then 500. 500 is going to be probably the biggest level to watch over the next couple days, and give or take 50 cents there. 499.50. Yeah, you might as well just say 500 at that point.
All right, sounds good. And for anyone who missed this action in the market today, you'll definitely want to pay attention to the Chinese stocks. Tickers like BABA, JD, KWEB, FXI, ASHR, PDD, NIO, and others have just been skyrocketing to the upside, and we have been talking about these ones for quite a bit, and especially over the past couple weeks. I seriously don't know how many big money trades in a bullish way have been associated with China stocks lately. Like, it has to be bare minimum, like 4 to 5, like bare minimum in the short term. But yeah, these stocks are rocketing to the upside right now, and they're definitely moving in a pretty strong way, so keep a close eye on them going forward. They tend to move with some pretty good momentum, and I can definitely continue to see them going up more as like the next couple months go by. However, they are up quite a bit already in the short term, so I wouldn't be all too surprised if we saw them pull back at least a little bit.
Yeah, we might. I mean, some of these moves are pretty awesome, but they are starting to look really good, Mike. Like PDD here in the short term with that big extension today, that was amazing. I think it could continue a little bit more here tomorrow. BABA, if we look at it, is starting to really extend above that range today. Like that $78 and then $80 break was huge for BABA. So keep this on the radar, guys. Some of the big money plays like the BABA 65 strike calls are up a ton, and I know it seemed like it might have been a little bit overextended when some of these China, I guess, big money plays were called out, but they've been doing so good in the short term, Mike. Like I gotta give you credit, Mike, on this one. The China stocks have been amazing off these bottom supports, and you've been pretty much calling them out every single night here.
And then check out the FXI one. I think this one is probably the most interesting because it was the biggest big money play as well. It was just under $9 million that went into this one, and we talked about it last week, actually. So it has been moving in a great way. It's the 28th strike, which is pretty close to the money right now, and they have all the way out to December. So if you haven't already looked at that one, consider doing some due diligence with it. But either way, let's jump right into some of the setups and predictions for tomorrow. A stock I'm watching pretty closely right now is Chewy, and it's to the upside. So this stock has been absolutely destroyed over like the past couple of years. It is starting to see just a little bit of daylight as the stock is up by about 6% on the day. It's very oversold, and there's a lot of support right around this $15 support level. So I am looking at to the upside, and if this one does pop up, I can see it popping up to like the $18.30 level to even up to like $21.60, depending on how risky you want to get with it. But what's really nice with it is like you can put like a stop loss just under like that like $15 support, where it's like if it goes up, it has like a really nice reward potential relative to the risk.
It really does. That support is awesome. The risk reward's great here on Chewy, and I saw this in Discord the other day, but dogs around the stock market rejoice, right? It's pretty funny with Chewy. I actually really like the company for the long term personally. I'm hoping that they can start to get their act together here in the market because I really do like the company. I would love to be a more long-term investor. And with the stock price this low, Mike, I mean, it's even a good candidate for selling puts almost down here at the bottom. But with my first play, I'm looking at Beyond Meat, ticker symbol BYND. It was up 6.77%. We saw a lot of the growth stocks moving today, which was a good thing. Whenever I go intraday, I'm going to look for a breakout above 730 tomorrow. They're up a little bit in after hours, but the main thing is just continue to see that good upside pressure. It's good to see Beyond Meat coming back out of the grave a little bit here.
There we go. All right, another stock I'm watching pretty closely is PARA. So this stock just ripped to the upside today by around 13% or so. It's another one of those stocks that has been struggling quite a bit over the past couple of years. And they had some pretty good news where Sony and Apollo basically expressed interest to potentially buy out this company. So anytime when you have news like that, obviously it brings in a lot of good bullish price action. And, there's a pretty big event to go along with this move, which is always good to see. So regardless, I'm looking at PARA to the upside in the short term. The momentum has been great, and there's some real substance behind the move.
Oh my gosh, look at that volume that came in at the end of the day today. I mean, yeah, that was definitely some big, a lot of substance, I guess we'll say, that really flowed in there into the market. So that's pretty awesome, though. That's good for PARA. Definitely look at it in the short term. That's a lot of volume at the end of the day. I'm actually watching Tesla quite a bit. It's around like the 180 support, and it got pretty low today, all the way down to around 176. So I'm really watching this 179.50, 180 support. If that breaks, I'll look for a move down around 175, 176. You can see on the book map that area down towards that 176 low of day is a huge area of support, along with 175. So I'm going to really keep that in play tomorrow. If it does keep holding 180 and we see it follow the market up, kind of like Apple and everything's moving up right now, look at 185 as resistance. That's a pretty solid level overhead, but that's kind of some good targets tomorrow for Tesla, and it's gonna be a good day to be adaptable, I think, especially with Apple's earnings and just all the other earnings that have happened over the past week.
You already know. All right, well, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have GDX to the upside.
GDX, yeah, one of the gold mining ETFs. If it can break above 33.90, then go ahead and look at calls.
All righty. With the next one, we have Upwork to the upside.
UPWK. If this one ends up breaking above the 1320 resistance, then I up those calls. I really like the way that one ran up today.
All right, and then with the last one, we have TLT for both directions. And for those of you who don't know, TLT basically follows interest rates. When TLT goes down, that means interest rates are increasing. And when TLT goes up, that means interest rates are falling.
Man, Mike, can this one pick a direction this week? I was thinking that the Powell event would make it pick one, but it's just been chopping around. If it can break out of this zone above 89.25, then go ahead and look at calls. If it ends up falling down back under 88.50, then I up puts.
Sounds good. So we have the downside level for puts, and we have the upside level for calls for TLT. Don't forget about the upside level with UPWK, and then the upside level with GDX. Either way, these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. We want to see strong, consistent price action in the directions listed, and then continuations in those directions. But it is now about that time for today's $1.7 million big money trade of the day. And we are looking at ticker symbol GSK. It's not another Chinese stock today, but looking at GSK, about $1.7 million was put into the 44 strike call options that expire on June 21st of 2024. GSK is a pretty giant pharmaceutical company based in the United Kingdom. Stocks like this one are a little bit riskier just due to the industry that they're in. Pharmaceutical companies can move up and down a lot based off of, I guess you could say, like regulatory actions. But either way, the stock has been uptrending in a pretty nice way. And it's getting closer to resistance right around $43.84. So that's good to see. These call options are pretty close to the money. They have some time to them. So overall, it's not bad. But either way, we'll keep a close eye on it as the weeks go by. And it would be nice to see a nice, strong break through this recent resistance level.
Yeah, and that resistance actually goes back quite a bit to like 2022 as well. There was quite a few hits around this same exact spot. So I'll definitely watch for that resistance to break short term. It's looking pretty good. And I like that setup almost. Maybe just like waiting for the breakout here, because that's, honestly, it's not too far away. Only like 50 cents from like the breakout So go ahead and keep watching this one. It's a pretty fun, big money play with GSK. It's hard to say, Mike. A lot of people are going to say, well, isn't this one overextended? And it kind of is, but, a lot of these stocks lately have been running up and breaking out, and whenever we zoom out, it's not that overextended when you go to like a longer-term chart.
Yep, and then as always with any big money trade or any swing trade, of course you have to give them the time they need. So this one does have all the way out to the end of June, so keep that in mind. And if you are looking for that added safety, you can always just put a stock like this on your watch list. And if you see it start to move in the desired way, then there's nothing wrong with entering later as well. So just keep that in mind. It'd be nice to see a rip through that resistance level, but either way, keep it close on watch. But we have one more day left for the week. SPY is moving in a strong way. Apple is starting to turn on the jets again. I haven't seen Apple move in this sort of way in quite a while. Apple has actually been one of those big tech stocks that has surprisingly been flat basically since December of 2021. Today it closed at $173 a share, and when we go all the way back to December of 2021, the stock was lingering between like you could say $67 a share and $179 a share. So it has been a relatively slow past couple of years for Apple, but maybe this recent move can start to bring back some of the price action that it used to have.
Yeah, it really will, and it's going to gap up quite a bit tomorrow. Like right now, it'll gap up all the way to where I'm drawing here on the chart, so that's pretty big. There is a blue line here, but it's kind of hard to see, and it's actually gapping up so much, Mike, that it's kind of blowing through all the trend lines and all the resistances that have been here on the stock. So it's going to be very interesting to watch that one tomorrow. Hop in the Discord. You maybe ask me for a book map on it. I'll throw one out there for you guys.
There we go. Well, either way, heading into tomorrow, whether you're looking at Apple, Coinbase, DraftKings, the Chinese stocks, the market overall, or anything else, let's remain adaptable. Let's keep those stop losses in place, and no matter what, let's trade in a smart, sustainable way, right? It's so easy to look at, let's say, a situation like Apple and say, damn, I should have put my whole portfolio into calls today. But realistically, over the long term, doing something like that is extremely risky and, will only lead to disaster. But trading in a smart, controlled, strategic way is really what makes the difference between those who succeed and those who just blow their accounts. So let's deploy some good, healthy trading habits tomorrow. Let's prioritize that before anything else. And if you guys are new to the channel, consider joining the StockedUp crew by subscribing. If you subscribe, you'll get our videos recommended to you more often. Every single day, we cover everything you need to know about the stock market, important earnings, charts you won't find anywhere else, big money plays, predictions for the next day, and just everything you need to know. And most of the time, the videos are between like 20 to 25 minutes or less. So consider joining the StockedUp crew. And besides that, let's end this week on a green note.